Right now, somewhere in your house, there's a room that refuses to cool down. You know the one. The upstairs bedroom or the office that's an oven by 2 in the afternoon. You don't have air conditioning or you're trying not to run it, so you went looking for another way. You've probably already tried something, maybe even bought something, and the heat is still winning. Whatever you tried, it warmed your hope, not your room. Go grab whatever you bought to beat the heat and keep it next to you, because by the end you'll have a 10-second test that tells you exactly what it's really doing. Here's what nobody tells you. Most of the cool your home without air conditioning advice out there doesn't cool a room at all. I checked all of it against the United States Department of Energy, the EPA, Energy Star, and published lab research. One example, Britain's Advertising Standards Authority looked at a mini air conditioner advertised to cool any room in 90 seconds for 98.7% less than real air conditioning and found no evidence it could do any of it. 10 popular methods, 7 actually work, 3 are a waste. We'll start with the 3 that don't, and the worst one isn't the cheap bowl of ice. It's the one serious do-it-yourselfers spend real money on, worst last. Then we'll count down the 7 that do, best last. And the best is an idea thousands of years old that beats the plastic gadget with no electricity at all. First, how I judged this. Cooling a room and cooling your body are 2 different jobs. A real method moves heat. It pulls heat out of your space, or it stops heat from getting in, and you can measure it. A trick just speeds up the sweat on your skin while the room stays exactly as hot as it was. So for every one of these, I asked one question. Does it move heat, or does it just sell you the feeling? And before we start, none of this is about safety. Everything here is legal and sold every day. The only question is whether it actually cools anything. Number 3 on the waste list, counting up to the worst. The homemade ice air conditioner. You've seen it. A bowl of ice in front of a fan, or a cooler packed with ice with a fan on the lid, sold as a $5 air conditioner. Here's what actually happens. Britain's Consumer Testing Group, which ran the tests, they're finding the cooling stays in the immediate area right around the fan, and it won't meaningfully drop a room's temperature. The EPA is just as plain. Portable electric fans do not cool air. They just move the air around. And that melting ice adds one thing to the room according to which humidity, which makes your own sweat evaporate slower. Sit directly in the stream and you'll feel it. Step 1 foot to the side and the room is exactly the same. As a personal trick in front of your face, fine. As a way to cool a room, you're melting ice for nothing. It sold you the feeling. And the next one, people actually pay for. Number 2, the little personal mini AC from every summer ad. A box on your desk, a few drops of water, and it supposedly cools your whole room, so in their words, you won't need air conditioning. Let's be clear about what it is, because the name is doing all the work. It is not an air conditioner. A real air conditioner uses a compressor to haul heat out of the air. This has none of that. It's a tiny evaporative cooler, a small fan over a wet sponge, and evaporative cooling, in the Department of Energy's own words, is only suitable for areas with low humidity. A palm-sized unit moves a tiny bit of air, and the physics alone says it can't cool a room. And that same Advertising Standards Authority, ruling on 2 different brands of this exact gadget, found no evidence behind the claims and stated that a small portable electric fan cooler would be a highly unlikely viable source of efficient cooling for most rooms. 2 brands, 1 verdict. To be fair, it's legal and it's not dangerous. The problem isn't safety. It's that a cheap fan and a wet sponge get sold to you as an air conditioner. Keep it handy. We'll test it at the very end. But it's not even the biggest waste. That one you dig for. Number 1 on the waste list, the worst of the 3, the do-it-yourself earth tube, sold as free underground air conditioning with 0 electricity. The pitch is beautiful. Bury a long pipe in your yard, run air through it, and the cool ground chills your whole house for nothing. Here's why it's the worst. Most work, most money, and it usually fails. Building scientist Martin Holliday, who reviews this for a living, put it plainly. I'm not a fan of earth tubes. His verdict, in his words, they are expensive to install, so they are rarely a cost-effective way to condition ventilation air. And a 2013 study by Butler and colleagues documented the other problem, that buried pipe collects condensation and can turn damp and musty, and its summer cooling is barely studied to begin with. You'd tear up your entire yard, spend real money to install it, and end up piping stale air into the house. It moved your savings, not the heat. Quick pause. If the first half already saved you from digging a trench for nothing, a like genuinely helps this reach the next person about to do it. 1 second, and it matters. Now that you know what to skip, here's what actually works. The 7 that move heat instead of selling the feeling, from the smallest win to the biggest. Best option number 7, cool your attic and you cool your whole house. This is the real, unhyped version of a trick that's everywhere online, usually sold as a $4 fix that saves $3,000 a summer. On a hot day, your attic bakes well past 100 degrees and radiates down into every room below. The fix is a radiant barrier, a cheap reflective sheet stapled under the roof, plus decent attic venting. The Department of Energy says a radiant barrier can drop attic temperatures by 20 to 35 degrees, and the real savings from the same department is a 5 to 10% cut in cooling costs, more if your ducts run through the attic. Not $3,000, no secret, no conspiracy. Climb into your attic on a hot afternoon and feel the heat sitting over your ceilings. That's what this removes, and you can stop that heat even earlier, at the roof itself. Best option number 6, stop the heat at the roof before it gets in. Your dark roof is a giant heat collector, so make it reflective. Lawrence Berkeley National Lab reports that a cool roof lowers maximum indoor temperatures by 2 to 6 degrees in homes without air conditioning, and can cut yearly heating and cooling costs by as much as 28%. There's a newer version from Materials Research, radiative cooling paint, engineered to beam heat up into the sky. In a 2020 study in Cell Reports Physical Science, this kind of paint held a surface below the surrounding air temperature in full daylight, cooling with no power at all. Reflecting sunlight and radiating heat into the sky are 2 different tricks. One bounces the sun away, the other beams heat out. The one honest catch per the EPA is a small winter heating penalty in cold climates, usually paid back by the summer savings. Put your hand on a dark surface and a light one in the sun, and you already feel the whole idea. Every fix so far only stops new heat at the envelope. The heat already trapped inside needs a different move, and this one runs on air you already have. Best option number 5, flush the heat out at night with a whole house fan. Instead of a little fan pushing air around, a whole house fan sits in your ceiling and pulls the entire house's hot air up and out through the attic. Open your windows, and the Department of Energy's Building America program measured this fan swapping the whole house's air 12 to 23 times an hour. It's more efficient than an air conditioner per unit of energy, about 25 British thermal units of cooling per watt hour against about 14 for a high-efficiency air conditioner. The motor draws a few hundred watts against an air conditioner's multi-kilowatt compressor. This is the honest opposite of that desk gadget. It actually moves the house's heat instead of stirring the air by your face. The catch, and I'll be straight, is climate. It only works when the night air has actually cooled off, roughly below the high 60s with a big day-to-night swing, and it does almost nothing on a muggy night. On a dry night, it's the closest thing to free cooling there is. Tonight, once the sun's down, step outside and then back in. If the night has turned cooler than your rooms, that gap is exactly what this fan drags through the house. And on a dry, hot night, you can do better than move the heat. You can evaporate it. Best option number 4, the real evaporative cooler, the full-size, honest cousin of that desk gadget. In the right place, it genuinely works. A proper evaporative cooler, a swamp cooler, pulls dry air through wet pads and drops the incoming air by 15 to 40 degrees on about a quarter of the energy of a real air conditioner, according to the Department of Energy. But it lives or dies on humidity. The Department of Energy is explicit that it's only suitable for areas with low humidity, and once the air passes roughly 60% humidity, the water can't evaporate, and the whole thing stalls. This is evaporative cooling done right. In its right climate, it adds moisture to cool, where a compressor air conditioner removes it. Wet one finger and hold it up. In dry air, it turns cold fast, and that's evaporation pulling heat, the exact engine inside this cooler. So live somewhere dry, and this belongs near the top of your list. Live somewhere humid, and the water can't evaporate, so it's the wrong tool, and the next one needs no machine at all, just the shape and weight of the building itself. Best option number 3, build with heavy, shady materials, the way people did for thousands of years before a power grid existed. It's the whole reason an old adobe house feels like a cool cave in July. Thick walls and heavy materials, what builders call thermal mass. Soak up heat slowly all day and release it slowly at night. Lay your palm flat on an inside brick or plaster wall in the afternoon. It should feel cooler than the air in the room, last night's cool still sitting in the mass. A 2025 review of passive design puts the effect at around 9 degrees off the indoor peak. A paper the same year in Scientific Reports describes exactly how the mass charges up on cool night air and works as a heat sink through the day. But the same study is honest about the limit. Mass and ventilation cannot pull a room below the outdoor air temperature, they only flatten the peak. It shifts the heat in time, it doesn't move it out. On a hot night with nothing cool to borrow, it has nothing to give, and if you want that same airflow driven by nothing but the sun, keep going. Best option number 2, pull hot air out with nothing but sunlight using a solar chimney. You build a dark sun-facing shaft on the house, the sun heats the air inside it, and that hot air rushes up and out, dragging fresh air through your living space as it goes. No fan, no electricity. A 2022 study in the journal Energy and Buildings measured it swapping the room's air up to about 15 times an hour on sunlight alone without a single watt of power. And that constant flushing is what carries the heat out and cuts the cooling you'd otherwise run. On its own, it won't make a room colder than the air outside. Its job is to move heat, not to beat physics. And that pitch you'll hear, that it slashes energy 75% and industry buried it, that's not a number to trust. The honest limit from that same paper, no sun, no draft, so at night it stops. It's the passive version of a real machine. And the oldest fix on this whole list is still the best one. Best option number 1, the windcatcher. The reason this is at the top isn't that it's the flashiest, it's that a tower thousands of years old with no moving parts and no power still does what the plastic gadget from earlier only promises. You've seen these towers over old desert cities. They catch the wind up high and funnel it down through the house. And in Yazd, the old Persian desert city built around them, they went one step further. The tower pulls that desert wind down past cool underground water, and as the water evaporates, it chills the incoming air. Research on those towers clocks indoor temperatures as much as 18 degrees below the outside air, all on wind and water, with no power at all. Let that land for a second. On airflow alone, no tower can beat the outside air. That's just physics, and the same Scientific Report study says so. But add that evaporation, and an ancient tower does what the plastic box on your desk only pretends to. No electricity, no refrigerant, no power bill. If I were cooling a home from scratch without air conditioning, this is where I'd start. 10 methods, 1 pattern. The ones that fail all sell you a feeling instead of moving any heat. The bowl of ice, the little box on the desk, the pipe in the yard, all of them warmed your hope, not cooled your room. What actually works either blocks the heat or carries it out. A reflective roof, a whole house fan on a cool night, real evaporation in dry air, a tower thousands of years old. Everything else is a performance you're paying for. So here's the 10-second test tonight. Walk up to any one of those mini AC gadgets and hold your hand at the outlet. The air is damp, not cold, that's your answer. The heat was always going to win those. Now you know which methods actually fight back. Share this with someone who's still got that little box humming on their desk before they buy a second one.